But before we go into the code of discipline, first of all, we have got to look at what is discipline. A brief description of these are given below. Attendance is one of the serious infractions, creating disciplinary problems for managers. Now, research finding report that attendance problem is much more serious and widespread than any other problem, such as carelessness, negligence, violation of established rules and procedures. Right? Now the question arises is why attendance is such a serious problem. While there is no simple and clear answer to it, one might postulate more than one reason for this. They are failure in aligning workers' goal with those of the organization. It is change most of the employees' attitude towards their employment, considering the job or work involving no more central or life interest. Change in backgrounds of the new entrants. Employees' preference to consume earned leave regardless of whether they really need it or they don't need it. And difficulty involved in firing employees because of union protection to them. This is included in these are weak, flexible, incompetent, and distrustful leaders. That is what Henry Fayol has to say. Discipline is what the leaders make it, and indiscipline is also what a leader makes. A defective supervision due to the absence of good and knowledgeable supervisor also leads to absenteeism or indiscipline. The divide and rule policy practiced by management, destroying team spirit among the employees, bad and unhealthy working conditions. We have discrimination based on caste, color, creed, sex, language, etc. We also have got improper coordination or delegation of authority, fixing of responsibility. We also have defective communication system and lack of timely redressal of employees' grievances that is there. So, code of discipline in industry is one of the voluntary measures that we said was arrived at, or evolved during the National Commission on Labor meeting in New Delhi in 1958 June. Now, a code of discipline has been laid down to maintain harmonious relations and promote industrial peace. It applies to both public, private, and private sector enterprises and aims to secure the settlement of dispute and grievance. It specifies various obligations for the management and the workers with objectives of promoting cooperation between their representatives. This code of discipline required the employers and workers to settle disputes making use of the existing machinery, abstaining from taking direct action over. That is what that was evolved at the Indian Labour Conference of 1958, as we referred to, which was attended by the major federations, Employers Federation and major employees federation or unions that was there, right? Like INTAC, ATAG, C2, etc., etc. Now, the code of discipline is applicable to all central organizations or employers and workers except those under the Ministry of Defense, Railways, Ports, that is by the Port Trust, and the docks, that is by the dockyards, right? So these are the establishment. We said all organizations except those under Ministry of Defense, Railways, Ports, and dockyards. It is applicable to insurance industry, the State Bank of India, and the Reserve Bank of India. The basic objective of the code of discipline was to maintain peace and order in the industry, which was the primary requirement for which they met. It also talked about to facilitate a free growth of trade unions, promote constructive criticism at all levels of management and employment, It talks about eliminate all forms of coercion, intimidation, and violations of rules and regulations governing industrial relations. Avoid stoppage of work in industry and avoid any form of litigation, that is legal battle in the courts of law. Now, code of discipline ensures that there should be no strike or lockout without prior notice, and this notice time is minimum time of 14 days notice is required. So any strike which is without notice, that is without giving a notice 14 days in advance, will be considered as an illegal strike. No deliberate change should be caused to a plant or property. Act of violations, intimidation, and coercion should not be resorted to by either parties. Actions that disturb cordial relations should be avoided. No unilateral action should be there on the part of any of the two parties. The existing machinery for the settlement of dispute should be utilized and implemented. To ensure better discipline in industry, management and union agreed to abstain from indulging in violation of rules and regulations. We also find that actions having mutually agreement of management and unions, this is what the management and unions jointly agreed to, that there should be no strike or lockout without proper notice. This is a joint agreement. They said that there will be no unilateral action in connection with any industrial matter, and that should be settled at appropriate level, the grievance procedure or any other redressal machinery that is available with these people. We also talk about they will avoid all forms of litigation, sit down and stay in strikes and lockouts, that neither party will have recourse to coercion, intimidation, victimization, or go slow tactics, that the existing machinery for settlement of dispute should be utilized with utmost efficiency. It also talked about formulating a mutually agreed grievance procedure which will ensure a speedy, fair, and comprehensive investigation leading to a time-bound settlement between the aggrieved party and the management, that they will abide by the various stages in the grievance procedure and take no arbitrary action. We should bypass this procedure, and they will promote constructive cooperation between their representative at all levels as between workers and management. Now, they also agreed that they will display the provisions of code of discipline at conspicuous places in the organization, including the notice board of the union, which is officially provided to the recognized trade union, and at all other conspicuous places in English and the national language and the local language, all three should be there. Similarly, what this management agreed to individually, they agreed that they will not increase workload until and unless agreed upon or settled otherwise with the workers. So any increase in workload has to be agreed upon in advance by the workers or their unions. They will not support or encourage any unfair labor practice such as discrimination and victimization of any employee that they agreed to. They said that they will take prompt action for settlement of grievances and implementation of settlement award decisions and orders. That is, within a month it has to be implemented what they agreed to. They also agreed to take appropriate disciplinary action against its officers and members in case inquiries reveal that they were responsible for precipitate action by workers, leading to indiscipline in the organization. They further agreed that they will take action against their members. Now, if inquiry reveals it. Now, there are certain things that union individually agreed to. That is, abstain from resorting to violent demonstrations, not to engage in any form of physical duress, not to, they agreed that they will discourage unfair labor practice such as negligence of duty, damage to property, and insubordination. They also agreed to take prompt action to implement awards and agreement settlements and decisions for which their cooperation is needed by the management. They also agreed that they will abstain from instigating the employees to engage in any union activity during the working hours. If the working hours is 9 to 5, there will be no union activity during this working hour that is there. Now, the provisions in the Code of Discipline was all central organizations of employees and workers have voluntarily accepted the Code of Discipline applicable in Indian industry, and this Code of Discipline is applied both to public and private sector organizations in India. So if you have any doubt that it is not applicable to private sector, is not true, because employers federation was from the both public and private sector organizations. Now, according to the Code of Discipline, it is mandatory to lay down a regular grievance procedure in every organization, number one. Number two, each grievance should be promptly redressed by legal means and through the normal channels. There should be no direct, arbitrary, or unilateral action on either party. That is, they agreed to. They also said that they will avoid litigation, lockouts and strikes, that is, sit down and stay in strikes, intimidation, victimization, or delaying tactics. That is there. They also agreed that unfair practices like negligence of duty, damage to property, and physical stress should be discouraged. They agreed that management should give workers the freedom to form trade union, which is there. Now, the management should promptly implement awards agreement. The trade union should function in a democratic fashion, and machinery for settlement of implementation and evaluation has to set up at the center and state level to ensure that the obligations outlined in the laws, agreements, and the Code of Discipline are observed by both management as well as the workers. Now, there are two annexures to this Code of Discipline, which I am not showing in the slides. They are called Annexure A and Annexure B to Code of Discipline. Now, Annexure A talks about procedure for recognition of trade unions, and B talks about rights of a recognized trade union. Now, if you want to know the first one, which is Annexure A, which talks about trade union, we know that Trade Union Act of 1926 do not provide any clause for the recognition of trade union by the organizations. It merely talks about the formulation of trade union, who can be the office bearers, so on and so forth. Therefore, Code of Discipline annexed the procedure through which trade union should be recognized. And the first condition is that the trade union, which is having majority in the organization, should be recognized. Now, this is also applicable to the industry level trade unions. The second procedure is that the trade union members whose members has paid subscription of at least 3 months should be recognized. The third procedure is that the union seeking recognition in the trade, in the organization must have at least 15% members following, because there are large number of union, so number of people may not be even 15%. they said that there should be 15% members who has got who are in the organization following a particular union will be recognized. The fourth procedure is that if they are seeking a recognition in the trade industry, then they must have 25% representatives supporting a union at the industry level will be recognized. Now, in order to know as to what is there in the grievance procedure in Annexure B, it talks about rights of a recognized trade union. So, the rights of recognized trade union is that the trade union which is recognized will be provided an office in the complex of the organization. Second is that they will be allowed an official notice board to put up their notices, and procedures, grievance procedure proceedings which are there. They will, code of discipline that is there, they will display. Third thing they agreed is that only a recognized trade union will have power of collective bargaining. An unrecognized trade union will not have the power for bargaining. So only a recognized union can participate in the collective bargaining process. The fourth thing is that a recognized trade union can collect membership fees at source. That is, the organization will deduct the subscription fees of the trade union members and pass it on to the recognized trade union if it is their member. Otherwise, other unions shall have to collect their fees on their own. Organizations will not provide them any benefit as far as the collection of fees is concerned. So this is what we have in the Code of Discipline. Right? Yes, hang on, I'm changing the slides, please. Right. We are looking at collective bargaining as the second topic. The major things in collective bargaining would be collective bargaining and introduction, approach of collective bargaining, techniques of collective bargaining, strategies of collective bargaining, and tactics of collective bargaining. Right? These are the major ones. The concept of collective bargaining is defined by International Labour Organization as Workers' Manual defines collective bargaining as negotiation about working conditions and terms of employment between an employer, a group of employers, and one or more employers' organization on the one hand, and one or more employees organization on the other, with a view to reach an agreement which is mutual in nature. Right? We also find that there are certain features of collective bargaining. The first feature is that it is a group process. That is, in collective bargaining cannot be an individual entering into any kind of agreement. It is a certain number of people who form a group of the employees and employers separately, and the two groups will meet together and discuss. Therefore, it is called a group process. Now, it is a process because a process, as we know, as an English word, means it involves certain predetermined steps that has to be followed in sequence. The third is that it is negotiation is the most important part of collective bargaining. There cannot be any collective bargaining without negotiation taking place between the two parties. It is a bipartite process, that is two and only two parties are involved. Government's intervention is not there. It is a continuous process, that is, it will be held from time to time in the organization at regular intervals. Not that you have collective bargaining once in the lifetime of the organization. It is a dynamic process because it is not static in nature, and it is an art rather than a science, as we all know. It is also a competitive process where two groups will try and compete with each other to extract maximum benefits, and therefore it is called competitive process. Now, as far as the significance of collective bargaining is concerned, it increases the economic strength of the parties involved in the collective bargaining process. It establishes uniform conditions of employment, secure fair and prompt redressal of grievances because they are meeting so they can discuss it, avoid interruptions of work because one of the preconditions for any collective bargaining is that work should be restored first and there should be no strike on when collective bargaining takes place. It also talks about laying down fair norms and working conditions. It also talks about achievement of an efficient operation of plant and machinery. That is what the management ensures. And it also talks about prompt and promote stability and prosperity of the industry. That is, if peace is there, it will grow and prosper. Now, what are the prerequisites of collective bargaining? Now, the prerequisites of collective bargaining is that there has to be proper environment that has to be ensured. Now, proper environment means it cannot be held at the streets. It cannot be held under the banyan tree or any other tree. It cannot be held in the form of tensions and tempers going on in the organization. So this is the kind of environment that will be there. The climatic situation is also one of the important situations. That is, the climate of the organization has to be seen as to what it is. We also have got psychological considerations that no one feels aggrieved much. The recognition of each other has to be there, that they are equally important. Like workers are important for the organization as much as the management is. They must have a proper setting, the place where they are going to hold a meeting of the collective bargaining process. Cooperative attitude of both parties have to be there. Issues that is to be discussed should be bona fide, not fake issues, and there has to be peaceful atmosphere within the organization. Some points may look to be overlapping, but it is not. Now, collective bargaining approaches. There are 4 approaches that the scholars have known over a period when they conducted research. They are known as piecemeal approach, total or holistic approach. This is with an H rather than a W. So it is holistic, not with W. HOLISTIC. The basket approach is, or package approach of bargaining is the third one, and take it or leave it approach is there. Now the fourth approach, that is take it or leave it, is also known as Bolverism. It is no longer in existence. So in practice today, if you look at, there are only 3 approaches that we know. What is piecemeal approach? Now, once the parties get to the bargaining table, they have a list of agenda items that they have presented, list of demands that they have presented to the parties. Now, they take one item at a time, discuss that in detail, arrive at final conclusion, before moving on to the next item. And they will continue bargaining till the end. That is, if there are 20 items, they will take one item at a time, discuss that in detail. That is, the threadbare discussion will take place. They will arrive at a conclusion, an agreement, and then move to the second item. There is no provision for going back to revise the last item when collective bargaining is still on. Once it is closed, it is closed. You cannot go back and revise. So the agenda items are not live when other items are being discussed. We also find that the advantage of this bargaining is that it is quick. The second advantage is that there is no horse trading involved in the collective bargaining process. But the disadvantage is that like items cannot be taken together. And the second disadvantage is that you cannot revise the items that is there, because in the absence of revision, there will be a problem as far as this collective bargaining is concerned. The second approach of bargaining, mind it, it is approach of bargaining. Second approach of bargaining is total or holistic approach. Here, like the first approach, when the parties get around the bargaining table, they take up the agenda list. Now, that is the demand list of demands they take up. Now, they take one item at a time, discuss that in detail, arrive at tentative agreement, and move to the second item. And they do the same thing for the second item and go on doing it till the last item is resolved. Now, the advantage of this bargaining is that like items can be taken, into consideration, and you go back to the earlier item where tentative agreement has been arrived at and revise it. So this is the advantage of total or holistic approach that is there. But disadvantage is that there is horse trading involved in this that takes place. The second thing is that it takes longer time and chances of deadlocks are there. The third disadvantage is that you tend to deviate in this collective bargaining process, which is called the holistic approach. The third approach, as we all know, is called basket approach or package bargaining. Here, agenda items are taken for discussion. They try and make basket of like items. So all economic items where pay and pay related items will be taken together. They will have, other items similarly making a basket. And when the discussion starts, they take a basket in total, discuss that in detail, arrive at a final conclusion before moving to the next basket. Until the last basket is exhausted, they continue to discuss. And even if there is a deadlock, you already have achieved some mileage in terms of arriving at conclusion of certain items in the basket that can be implemented, and the meeting can be adjourned or it can be recalled later on as far as collective bargaining is concerned. But what we find is that the third approach is the most popular approach of collective bargaining that is normally being followed in the industry. The fourth approach is called take it or leave it approach. As we know, it was proposed by a Russian named Bolvar, and therefore it is named after him as well, called Bolvarism approach, where the employer decides the agenda item. They decide what is to be given and what is not to be given. Workers are called in a meeting room, and they are told as to what is their interest that the organization feels. They only have the power to take it or leave it. They accept what is being offered, or they leave it. They will not get any benefit. Now, this approach after the fall of Soviet Union has fallen. It is no longer valid. It is assumed under this approach that workers cannot think of their own benefit because they are not educated lot. They are uneducated lot. Therefore, it is the employer who can think about their benefit. And in the communist rule, this was quite popular kind of approach. Now, bargaining techniques. The term bargaining techniques has narrower meaning than the term approaches. These are some of the techniques which has been listed. It is called review of pre-negotiation sessions. Some bargaining must have taken place earlier. When you meet again, try and review those items, right? Nomination of a spokesperson by both parties. So the management group will have their spokesperson who will be participating in the bargaining, and worker will have their spokesperson. All others will be supporting this spokesperson, because you cannot have 5 people talking and to the other 5 people and then arriving at an agreement. Therefore, only one person will be talking, doing all the talking, and support will be made by other members in the group. Informal meeting has to be there between the formal meetings, because sometimes tempers and tensions are involved, and therefore before any deadlock can arise, they talks about informal meeting on tea or coffee or lunch, snacks, whatever. There has to be recess or adjournments if required. Recess has to be there, adjournments if required, and rest and come back. The flexibility of approach has to be there, and keep the presentation live till the final settlement is reached. So that is also one of the collective bargaining techniques that we have. We should avoid bluffing in the collective bargaining. We should make counter proposals. So if the workers demand a 10% increase in the salary, for example, so the management can have a counter proposal of 10% increase in the productivity of the organization. Now, they also talk about use of theatrics, which is very, very common, showing that you are angry, but you are not, showing that you are trying to break away, but you are not going to break away, where theatrics is involved. Cope with emotional factors. You should not take your person together. Don't get emotional at the bargaining table, because the minute you become emotional, you have lost the battle. We should avoid all forms of conflict that may arise while discussing the matters. Discover areas of common interest. That is very, very important. Present alternate proposals. Now, there is a difference between counter proposal and alternate proposal. That is, counter proposal is by the opposite party, whereas alternate proposal is by the same party. That if proposal 1 is not acceptable, look at proposal 2, which is alternate proposal. We also talk about concession closure. That is, any concession that is allowed in the discussion should stop before the final agreement is taking place. And they also talked about avoiding publicity, before the bargaining has concluded. Now, those were the techniques of collective bargaining. Now, let us look at the bargaining strategy. Now, the objective of all negotiation is to reach a mutually satisfying agreement. For behavioral scientists, we know that satisfying agreement is basically reached by employing any of the four strategies. It can be break off negotiation, make new proposal which is more worthless than the last one, persuade the other side to concede, and fourth is seek coordinated movement, which is there. Now, over the year, various strategies have been advised. There is a gentleman named Domenico Gigliando who has analyzed and observed that some strategies which are still valid and followed in the organization are capitalizing on the general economic and political situations of the country. Time of negotiation has to be chosen. That is, first 2 quarters is always beneficial for the employers to enter into collective bargaining process. That is, the week starting 1st of April to the 31st of September. Second half is more desirable for the workers because management will be under pressure to achieve their targets. Therefore, they can be pressurized. That is where the time of negotiation has to be chosen. There is a planned course of progressive action should be there as far as the collective bargaining strategy is concerned. So we can follow the strategy of selectivity. We can follow the strategy of advance strike vote, coordinating public opinion. That is yet another strategy, seeking government intervention. If you feel that the employers are not acceding to anything, they can seek the action here. They also talk about attitudinal restructuring should be there on the part of the members. And now let us look at the tactics of collective bargaining. Tactics seems to be a negative term, but here we are not looking at the negativity part. There are 2 types of tactics. Excuse me. Those intended to gain advantage for the side employing a particular tactics, and the tactics intended to help persuade the other party to accept a viewpoint that is being placed by the other party. So some of the well-known tactics are initial high demands, counter proposal, salesmanship, bargaining from weakness, showing that you are weak, otherwise you are not, power balance, that is important, strike vote, that is in advance saying that if there is nothing, this is as good as it approved, and the trade-offs can also be there. We also have got synchronizing, which is important. Tempers and tensions is one of the tactics. Delaying and stalling is one of the tactics. But the best tactics is use of facts, and honesty is the best tactics because you don't have to remember anything if you are not lying, right? So these are the tactics of collective bargaining. So that brings us to the end of collective bargaining process and today's session as well. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Do you have any question? Hello? Hello?
No, sir.
Any question?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you.
No, sir.